Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. Donald Trump, the self-proclaimed very fine genius and titan of deal-making, just got humiliated by the country he loves to insult, Canada.
On the heels of President Trump's first 100 days in office, Liberal Prime Minister Mark Carney won Canada's national election, who ran largely on an anti-Trump platform. It was an election influenced by the American president, who made repeated threats to annex Canada.
Before Trump started making those threats, the Conservative Party in Canada seemed headed towards a landslide victory. But now the Conservatives have suffered a clear, stinging defeat. And even more humiliating, their party leader, Pierre Poilievre, lost his own seat to a Liberal challenger. It was a remarkable repudiation in Canada of conservatism and a dramatic slapback at Donald Trump. Liberal Party leader Mark Carney, who took over as Prime Minister just months ago when Justin Trudeau resigned, dumped on President Trump in Carney's victory speech.
As I've been warning for months, America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen. We are once again at one of those hinge moments of history. Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The system of open global trade, anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over. These are tragedies, but it's also our new reality. We are over the shock of the American betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons.
But you're going to take us forward.
We have to look out for ourselves. And above all, we have to take care of each other.
Carney, age 60, is an economist and financial policymaker who promoted himself as the anti-Trump candidate. He centered his campaign on hitting back hard at Trump, and one of his most popular campaign commercials played off of the hockey phrase elbows up, which means fight. The spot even featured Canadian actor and former comedic star of Saturday Night Live, Mike Myers.
Let's go. Mr. Prime Minister, Mike Myers, what are you doing here? I just thought I'd come up and check on things.
You live in the States.
Yeah, but I'll always be Canadian.
But you live in the States.
Yeah, so?
Do you remember Mr. Dressup?
The children's show on CBC?
What were the names of Mr. Dressup's two puppet friends?
Casey and Finnegan?
Bud,
Spud?
Howie,
Meeker?
capital Saskatchewan.
Regina?
Tragically.
Pip?
You're a defenseman defending a 2-on-1. What do you do?
Take away the pass, obviously.
What are the 2 seasons in Toronto?
Winter and construction?
Wow. You really are Canadian.
Yeah. But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right, elbows up.
Elbows up.
Canada's strong indeed, and one of the most powerful op-eds in Canada after the election came from Christopher Buckton. Canada just humiliated Trump and exposed arrogant America's decline. Quote, with the election of Mark Carney as Prime Minister, the Canucks delivered a roaring rebuke not only to the U.S. leader, but to the hideous version of America he represents, arrogant, unstable, and dangerously delusional. Let's be honest, this wasn't just a Canadian election, it was a referendum on Trumpism, and by extension, the states. Canadians, America's closest and most loyal ally, have had enough. Enough of the trade wars, enough of being branded the 51st state, enough of being treated like a doormat for Trump's latest tantrum. What happened at the ballot box was less a Liberal Party recovery and more an international gut punch to a discredited figurehead. As the columnist noted, Donald Trump triggered all of this himself. Trump sparked a pointless trade war against Canada, seeking tariffs on steel, aluminum, and dairy products. Trump repeatedly smeared Canada and portrayed Canadians as weak and subordinate. Trump mistook kindness for submission, and Trump thought partnership was dependency. Trump was wrong. Repeatedly. And the Liberal Party of Canada, which had trailed in the polls by nearly 25 points just a few months ago, came roaring back, fueled by the Liberal Party leader's unbridled anger and defiance of Donald Trump. Many MAGA folks in the United States, including Donald Trump, will likely ignore the Canadian election outcome, but the damage that Donald Trump has inflicted on the United States through his treatment of Canada is impossible to ignore. Tourism to the United States is down by double digits. Canadians make up the largest share of U.S. visitors, and the loss in U.S. tourism-related revenue in 2025 is now projected to hit $100 billion. Canadian consumers have boycotted all U.S.-made products sold in Canada, and dozens of U.S. businesses and manufacturers which depend on Canadian customers are already reporting deep financial problems. In other words, Donald Trump didn't just impact the outcome of an election in Canada. Trump's behavior towards Canada is literally squeezing countless Americans. All of this, of course, could have been prevented. Donald Trump could have treated Canada with the respect and dignity it deserves as America's closest ally and friend. Instead, Trump kept lashing out. And just a few weeks before the Canadian election, when conservatives were urging Trump to knock it off, he was still describing Canada and its leaders as more difficult to negotiate with than most of America's enemies.
One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada. The people that, now this was Trudeau, the people that good old Justin, I call him Governor Trudeau, his people were nasty.
Well, those people Donald Trump kept calling nasty are now having the last laugh. They have hammered down Trump's few allies in Canada, and Trump's antics just guaranteed that conservatives will be out of power once again for the fourth Canadian national election in a row. And previous ridicule of Trump from Canadian Parliament members, well, all of that is again going viral.
Newsflash, Donald Trump, we are not aspiring to be a 51st state. We are already a sovereign country. We are a nation. And anytime anyone looks around the world for the top 10 places to live, Canada's in the top half of the top 10, always. The United States? Never. Even the U.S. News and World Report, which puts together such a list, looks at things like affordability, access to health care, safe streets. Where do you want to live? Canada. And by the way, Mr. Trump, please, before making public pronouncements that Wayne Gretzky should run for prime minister, give yourself or get yourself a briefing on the nature of parliamentary democracy, a Westminster parliamentary system, and a constitutional monarchy where no one runs for prime minister. We have elections for members of parliament. We don't get to pick and choose among our billionaire friends for who gets a seat at the cabinet table. If they're not an elected member of parliament, well, Canadian system is different from that of the United States of America. I suggest that Mr. Trump find one of his grandchildren's school books and look at the year 1776, which may explain a few things to him about why our systems of government are different. Hey, Donald, have we got a deal for you? You think we want to be the 51st state? Nah, but maybe California would like to be the 11th province. How about it? California, Oregon, Washington? You've got geography in common with us. And not only that, we've already got a carbon trading system between California and Quebec. We've got some strong alliances on our west coast from British Columbia. There's been a lot of academic papers on the idea of Cascadia. So California, Governor Newsom, and Washington State, Jay Inslee, and newly elected Governor of Oregon, Tina Kotek. How about it? Want to put a referendum to your citizens? Because this is what you deal. Have we got a deal for you? This is what you get. Free health care. Universal free health care. No more one-year-olds who suddenly fall off the Medicaid list and their parents are in the news because they're trying to do a GoFundMe so they can get their daughter to a doctor.
To be clear, the road ahead for Canada may not be much easier. Canadian leaders will still have to try to negotiate with Donald Trump, but they will do so from a position of domestic Canadian political strength, after having proven that Canadians are united in telling Trump to va chier, which means f***. By the way, there is some new reporting about the brief nature of Donald Trump's recent meetings in Rome.
peace summit of sorts for President Trump and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky. The two leaders face-to-face, seated inches apart inside St. Peter's Basilica for a 15-minute one-on-one about Ukraine's war with Russia.
Mr. Trump told aides he wanted to make it back to his golf resort in New Jersey before the end of the day. That's right. Donald Trump was more interested in racing back to New Jersey to play golf than in talking at length about the Russia-Ukraine negotiations, or in discussing them with other leaders, or even chatting about global economic turmoil. Trump wanted to play golf. The video generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Aaron, who wrote, "People who voted for him owe the world an apology." I hear you. I look forward to reading your comments about Canada humiliating Donald Trump with a clear liberal election victory. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.